What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Cosmic Wonder. So not only do the Russo brothers have plans to start a new beginning for the MCU and essentially bring us the soft reboot with Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars, but they also have plans to fix the MCU. In a recent interview, the Russo brothers explained that they have a plan to restore the MCU to its former glory, and they're going to do so in the next Avengers film and, of course, in Avengers Secret Wars as well. In an interview with The Times, they have explained that they will refocus the MCU. And in the article, they also make the argument that Marvel Studios and Marvel movies have actually kept theaters alive. They have kept cinema alive, with the article being titled itself, Russo Brothers, Marvel is Killing Cinemas, ? No, they've kept them open. And although the box office numbers aren't what they used to be, Marvel has considerably contributed to box office numbers since 2008's Iron Man, and Marvel in general even way before then, with a lot of movies that they've done in the past. And there's a lot of really awesome things in this article, but we're first going to tackle what the apparent problem with the MCU is that I think a lot of people will agree with at this point in time, what the Russo brothers think of it, and how they are going to fix it. The article states, when the Russo brothers entered the MCU, it was at a bullish time when the original heroes, Iron Man, Captain America, and Thor, could do no wrong. The brothers succeeded in making Marvel dig deeper, and it has suffered since they left. Anthony Russo says, well, we love the genre. Some people wrote it off as a less comprehensive form of storytelling that's more for children. But we think of it as relevant for adults. If it is treated with maturity and complexity, that's really all it is, a commitment to storytelling. And I 100% agree on that. Obviously, some stuff is tailored more towards kids than others, but I think overall, Marvel is definitely tailored towards adults, and I do think we could use a little bit more seriousness in the MCU, and I think the Russo brothers are going to bring that back. But the article continues and states, the trouble is there are now 29 Marvel TV series and 35 films. The commitment to storytelling has fallen off a cliff, and convoluted plots have taken over. What will the Russo brothers do about it? Well, here's what Anthony Russo had to say. Yes, the MCU has got quite large, that's for sure. I mean, frankly, we struggle with that same issue. But part of the reason Joe and I decided to go back is exactly what you're talking about. There needs to be more of a central narrative. That was something we were very specific about when we worked with Marvel before. We would like to bring the focused narrative back. And this interview was for their new movie, The Electric State, with Chris Pratt, who of course plays Star-Lord. And before we dive into what they just said, they also asked Chris Pratt about this situation. The article says, well, if anyone can save Marvel, it will be these two. After all, they were the ones who made it billions in the first place. I asked Pratt, can these men fix the MCU? And Chris Pratt said, sure. They know that it's the mundane, human brokenness of characters that drives stories and makes the Avengers great. They have this ability to find the humanity. So even Chris Pratt kind of acknowledges a little bit, at least, that the MCU is kind of in a slump, but he has full faith that the Russo brothers can bring it back. And of course, you have to imagine that Star-Lord is returning, especially after working on an entire movie with the Russo brothers, The Electric State. You know they talked about what they had planned for the next two Avengers films. I'm sure Chris Pratt knows a ton about Avengers Doomsday and Avengers Secret Wars. Now, the article also mentions something that the Russo brothers say about Robert Downey Jr. as Dr. Doom, and we'll get to that, but let's first dive into what they said about how to fix the MCU. Now, at first, they say that they struggle with the same issue, which makes a ton of sense because they are basically inheriting everything that Marvel has done, not even just since Phase 4, but just everything in general, and they're having to pick it up right now. But to their point, yes, the stories have been kind of convoluted, and yes, the stories haven't been focused on one central thing. Now, it's not like every single movie in the Infinity Saga focused on Thanos, but there was a lot of connections to him. We obviously have our post-credit scene for the Avengers. Thanos is obviously the one who kind of employed Loki to go take over Earth. He gave him the scepter that had the Infinity Stone in it. In Age of Ultron, Thor started to realize that the Infinity Stones were coming into play and that there was someone out there doing something with them. Plus, not to mention the post-credit scene for Avengers Age of Ultron literally showed us the Infinity Gauntlet and Thanos putting his hand in it, saying, fine, I'll do it myself, showing us that Thanos was the overall big bad villain. The Guardians of the Galaxy also introduced him and showed him trying to collect the Power Stone, which Ronan would end up taking, but then the Guardians of the Galaxy gave it to Xandar, and that all came into play. We found out that Thanos decimated Xandar to get the Power Stone, and when Thanos shows up and Bruce Banner is freaking out to Tony and Doctor Strange and Wong, Bruce Banner even says, he sent Loki. This is Thanos. The guy who sent Loki to New York, this is him. We don't have any of that, and even for Kang, only a little bit was built up as well. We had the first 2 seasons of Loki and then Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania, where we kind of started to get going, but they also had him defeated by ants in that film as well. Poor decision. But all the other movies, there's really not too big of a connection, so the Russo brothers are coming into this wanting to make that connection. And apparently their plan is pretty simple. They're going to refocus the narrative, which is very interesting because it's not like they have movies before Avengers Doomsday to do this themselves. Obviously we get movies coming out before, but it doesn't seem like the Russo brothers were too involved with the Thunderbolts, like not involved at all when it came to making it, but they came into the MCU again with a story at hand. This magical, perfect story that they've been talking about that took over a year to come up with that finally brought them back. Like Robert Downey Jr. literally said he was trying to get them to come back for a year. They kept saying no until they finally found that perfect story. So it's logical to think that this story is going to affect some other MCU projects, and we know that this story is obviously going to affect everything in between Doomsday and Secret Wars, but I do think it might have a little impact on the Fantastic Four, because depending on when the Russo brothers came back, that movie still could have been wrapping up filming or in the post-production process, and they could have come in close enough to give us something for Doom in the Fantastic Four film. I'm crossing my fingers, we'll have to wait and see on that, but the biggest thing that they're going to do is make everything from Avengers Doomsday to Avengers Secret Wars connect. It's all going to be focused on one story, and if Avengers Doomsday really does bring us Battleworld at the end, then yes, everything will have to, so it won't actually be that hard for the Russo brothers to do. And destroying the multiverse and creating Battleworld at the end of Avengers Doomsday is actually a really great idea, so they can do this, so they can refocus the narrative. It becomes all about Doom at that point in time, and then everything after Doomsday essentially becomes a Doomsday Part 1, Part 2, Part 3, however many movies they're going to do, they're all basically going to be coming off Doomsday. For example, Spider-Man 4 is supposed to be a big multiversal film now. Then if we get Doctor Strange 3, that is obviously supposed to be about the multiverse in general and the incursions, and that would have already happened if Doctor Strange 3 comes after Doomsday, which we believe it will be. Thor 5 should be about Loki. If we get Shang-Chi 2, that should connect the Bengals to, well, what was once Kang technology, but now could be Doom technology. So everything really can be brought together now. And the great news is that's the Russo's plans. And I think that's going to make for a great end to the multiverse saga. And I think that the movies that we're going to get from here on out are going to be really great. The Thunderbolts, the Fantastic Four, Doomsday, Spider-Man 4, everything else, I think they're going to be fantastic movies. And Robert Downey Jr. is returning as Doom, and that's exciting whether you like it or not. You're definitely wondering what's going to happen. I know I am. And the end of the article states, back to the Russos, how will they bring back Robert Downey Jr. as the villainous Dr. Doom, given he died as a different character, Iron Man, in Avengers Endgame? And Anthony Russo said, we can't explain that as it's part of the story, but there's nobody else in the world who could play this character the way he's about to. And Anthony Russo concluded the interview by stating, look, every movie is hard, but we're excited. We've got something to say. So they're coming into this with a lot of intention here. There is a specific story that they're sold on that they want to tell. They want to refocus the narrative of the MCU to focus around Dr. Doom and one story, and they're determined to do so, and it sounds like they are incredibly confident, which is awesome for us. But go ahead and let me know your thoughts about all of this in the comments down below. Do you think the Russo brothers can fix the so-called MCU problem, or do you think the MCU was fine to begin with? Drop your thoughts down below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe so you don't miss out on any of the latest Marvel news, rumors, or leaks. You can also find us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And as always, thank you all so much for watching. Woof woof.